Hi, this is Julian for Pro Tools Expert, and this time I'm looking at the new Karacter plugin from Plugin Alliance. This is a software version of a hardware unit made by Alicia, and it's a solid-state saturation distortion unit. Let's jump straight in and listen to it on some bass guitar. Here I've got some settings dialed up to introduce a bit of fur onto the bass. You've got two modes which you can run in, FET Shred or not in FET Shred. That's referred to as saturation mode. That's what we're in this first example. And hopefully you can hear how that's introducing a nice little bit of fur. If I go to B, I've got a setting that's similar but using FET Shred. So if I toggle between those, and you can hear straight away how B is much more aggressive. It's much more asymmetrical, so you get that characteristic thinness like you do when you're changing the duty cycle on a square wave oscillator on a synthesizer if you're into analog synths. There are two versions of this plugin. The one that we just saw was the mix version, which has one set of controls, either on a mono channel where you only need one set of controls, or on stereo instances there's still just one set of controls. But there is also a mix version which looks very different. It kind of mimics a 500 format. And in that, you can have different settings for each channel, and you can run in mid-side mode, which is something you can do in most of these Plugin Alliance plugins. Here it is across the drum bus, and if we listen to the drums with nothing, and then I bring in this setting here, which is unlinked in mid-side and with different amounts of drive and different colour settings for the mid and side channels respectively, and we'll hear what it does. And straight away you can hear how that's introducing lots of extra detail in the low-level stuff and changing the stereo image slightly. I like it. Here we are back in the mix version of Karacter, and this is on a stereo track. This guitar track's a little double stop part, and if we listen to it, it's got a little bit of breakup on it, but I'd like to introduce a little more bite to this part. Here's what it sounds like without Karacter. And if I introduce some Karacter, we have this. Notice that that's not using the aggressive setting, the FET Shred setting. If I do that, or going even further, and that's with pretty low drive settings. If I take it all the way up, we're in being a jam jar territory. But you see what I mean about how there's an awful lot of available processing, and if you want to take it further, you really can. And here's an instance of Karacter Master. On the Master, I'm running in MS mode, unlinked again, and what I've done is I've dialed in some settings to introduce a little bit of width, a bit of snap onto the transients, and also I quite like what's happening here with the mid channel and the darker colour, introducing a little bit of kind of balls into the bottom end, and I think it sounds quite nice. We'll start off with it in bypass. And lastly, what I think we should try to do is we should bring all of them in and out together. This is probably going to go a little bit far because I've tried to make these examples audible. So this would probably be an either or choice. But let's see what it sounds like without any of these instances and then bring them all in together. And that's probably going a little bit too far because you can hear how the bottom end's kind of disappearing a little bit as it's getting oversaturated. But anyway, that's been Karacter. I like it. What I like about it is the range of sounds you can get from it and the flexibility afforded by the two versions and the unlinking and the MS modes of operation. My favourite settings have definitely been in the saturation setting without FET Shred switched in and the colour set on the darker side of 12 o'clock. All in all, very worthwhile thing, and I've enjoyed using it a lot.